I've been wanting to get a lot of artists on this thing to try and talk about, music, obviously PEI music, East Coast hip hop, and really just like the music process, and like kind of how you create and how you go about things, you know what I mean, about your business as an artist. If
Sure.
there's anything you want to start on maybe, or something like you'd be stoked to talk about to start, maybe let me know. I've got plenty of questions. I went through your music the other night and I wrote down some questions and stuff. So I got
Nice.
some, I got some fun ones.
The I don't know, man. I definitely would say anyone who, only because I worked with Kevo and
Lizleo and stuff.
Lizleo
Yeah.
lately. I've done like 3 songs with Lizleo, and I just did one with Kevo and Lizleo, and those guys were like, "Oh, I didn't want to bother you," and I think I definitely don't think it's a big deal if anyone wants to. I wouldn't FaceTime me randomly or anything, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
definitely at some point respond to a message if someone has
Mm,
you know uh, questions on
yeah.
how to do stuff, whether it's I mean, I'm old, so it's the same as like I wouldn't tell everyone to go ask an Allycat or you
Mm,
know anyone how do I sample records or whatever, but I can definitely, like I was saying to you the other day, I'm usually down to coach anyone through paperwork
yeah,
or
yeah.
the business side of it. That, not that I'm an expert, but when you're when you're old, you you definitely sort of you know uh, know those things, and know how to the rules of
Mm,
keeping things bios, and
yeah,
your
yeah.
most things related to getting funding or up for awards.
Mm,
The universal thing I hear is, keep it short and simple. And I think most people, they worry, like, what if I don't get my point across? That's
right.
definitely talking to,
Yeah.
and actually it's not, I've talked to a few people over the years about it, and I got that criticism, um, running it by the different music association people, or just people who I looked up to,
Yeah, yeah.
admire myself, and wanna, at whatever time it was, wanted to, find out how they got to where they were.
Mm,
Keeping things short and simple, and really saying what you wanted of whatever you're applying for. Don't be scared in that bio in a award or grant submission to say, like, um, what you are. Be
mm,
be what you want to put forth in your music. Don't go long-winded. Say,
yeah.
I'm, with you, I would guess, I'm Braden V, and I want to make, most of my, I want to make music that's uplifting and positive.
Mm,
You don't need to be long-winded and be like, I'm like
yeah.
this and this. You might mention you're like something, but definitely
Yeah.
say what you are. And it's the same as if you want a grant to print 200 records, or to make a website. Just say that and say why it's
Yeah.
important to you. You don't need to make up an answer, like a long-winded business answer. There's enough
Right.
business plan type stuff on things, but you know that's what I'd say to everyone. With what I see uh everyone doing now, would definitely be to and also, just in the first place, apply for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna say you miss 100% of the shots you don't
Yeah.
take.
No, but you're 100%
if
right. That's
if there
right.
was someone there, they'd hit me. But don't. It's better to let the jury, let the people weed you out, because the
Yeah.
music industry has changed. And I've seen you say this. I've watched you enough to know that you talk about the social media game and the
Yeah.
associations and everything.
Yeah.
And the industry has changed so much that those things you say are important. They give you the following, and they give you the resume you need
Yeah.
to have the following you need to give you um, the leverage to get those things, or at least be
Yeah.
considered for them, because usually
Yeah.
they'll give
Exactly.
you a critique after too, right? So, and those are all things, like, I won't tell you them, someone else will tell you them, but
Yeah.
put yourself in a position to be critiqued by a non-biased third party.
Yeah.
That's always gonna be huge help to
Yeah.
your music career. Is having someone who's not one of your
Knowing your
bros or
friend.
your homies,
Yeah.
you know, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to find that because a lot of people think that, you know, they don't want to be triggering. Maybe they hate what you do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
But
yeah. A
you
lot of
might
people
learn
want to be
more
handled
from
with baby gloves. Yep.
you might learn more from your haters than you do from your
Good point.
your your friends, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, one criticism is worth way more than compliments. I've always said that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. As long as it's coming from a good place, right? That's and like you said, those associations, the arts councils, all those, they're going to give you probably pretty unbiased. They're not out to get you or make you feel bad. They're out
No,
there to give you the real critiques of what you might need or what you might be missing. That's right.
and
Yeah.
they've pointed people in my direction in the past, and
Mm.
you know, so I believe they probably do that with other genres of people, or you
Yeah.
know, they might point someone, um, you know, someone like Vince's way. You know, they might say,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, Vince did Emma's from Montreal. You know, if you
Mm.
want to know what he did and who, you know, the application came through a MusicPEI email, but you
Yeah.
know, really he got all his info and made all his contacts uh, another way. You know,
Mm.
it's like before buying plays on when Spotify and stuff new.
Yeah.
That's how old I am. I somebody sent me a list of this how old I am blogs. You know, before influencers and stuff, but I
Yeah.
made an email template. I mean, templates are important, and
Mm.
I reached out to them with you know, my Spotify you know, link, and
Mm.
it got that a lot of plays, and I got like
Nice.
I got a few kind of like write-ups and reviews, right? Like some of them
Yeah.
were kind of generic, just reposts, but there was a person or two you know, who did a write-up on it, and they were somewhere else. That was for one of me and
That's
DJ
cool.
albums, you know, a half decade ago or so. And, you know, and I guess my point is there's always, you can always learn something from people. And I think I learn a lot from, I think I learn a lot from you younger cats too, as far as like, dropping a single and just
Yeah.
dropping a digital, you know, uh, just seeing how everyone goes about it and stuff. Cause I'm
Mm.
definitely more situated to drop a solid you know, release on a, you know, an album or whatever. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And to go back to what you said about like, all the, making sure you sign up for every single one, that is a really big thing, I think, because I think a lot of artists in particular, they try for one or two and they get frustrated because they don't get any results from that. And the truth is it really does take sometimes dozens, in some cases hundreds of times, whether it's just cold sending emails out to try and get on some, like you said, like a blog or a radio station or, a feature or whatever. Or like with the grants and stuff, it takes sometimes writing 5, 6 grants before you get a penny
yeah,
to help, right? And it's easy to get frustrated at that stuff, obviously. But the whole point is you got to be willing to do it yourself anyway. And then the grants and stuff, if they can help you, I mean, obviously, apply for them, make sure you put in the work for those and try and get them. But don't
yeah.
plan on them. That's for sure too, right? It's pretty tough to expect that stuff.
With everyone, I think putting on, you know, kind of showcase style
Mm.
shows. I mean, have a team and have your cosigns
Yeah.
on that, and use your accumulated, you know, your accumulated experience
Mm.
as leverage. Because you
Yeah.
know, for artists with, you know, maybe each alone only has done a few things so far, but all together you may, hey Rob,
What's up, Rob?
the
Should we invite Rob? Rob requested to join, by the way. So if you want, I can invite him into the thing.
for sure.
Yeah. All right. Right on. We'll have Rob in for a few too if it works. Rob, if you cause too much trouble, though, I'm gonna have to switch you out so I can interview Eric.
I don't think Rob isn't much of a spotlight stealer.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
definitely we're the opposite. Me and Allycat are definitely try to tried to drag him out up front too much.
Oh yeah, it's funny how that's a thing, right? There's some people that are so comfortable being in the background or behind the scenes, and sometimes you almost have to kind of like really push them to get up there and stuff like that, And other people are the total opposite. They want the spotlight and they never want to work behind the scenes. Obviously, a balance of both is important,
Yeah.
but it's always good. You need those people that are willing to be in the background. Or not to say that Rob per se is in the background, of course, but in general, you need like you said, the team of people that they're willing to give somebody else the spotlight for a moment, and then maybe down the road they get their chance or whatever too. It's important to be able to
Oh, for
give and take.
sure.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question? I was actually looking through. So I listened to a bunch of your music the other night,
Oh, for sure.
and I've heard plenty of your music before, obviously, but I wanted to get a couple like little insights and maybe a couple ideas, a couple themes from your writing and stuff. And I noticed one thing in a lot of your music is you've got kind of like there's a recurring theme of like frustration with politics and uncaring people who kind of ignore all the pollution and the badly run institutions and do you want to maybe I don't know if I'm picking that up maybe just based off a couple of the songs that I've heard, but I've noticed that at least it seems like in each of your albums there's at least a song that kind of has some of those themes recurring. Is there something to that? Is that a recurring theme in your life too that you've kind of found frustrating and something you've wanted to express regularly, I should say?
Oh, for sure. I think different albums with, like, the last one like that was probably Safe Spaces with Rob,
Mm.
and that album was definitely like, I think people thought we were shitting on millennials, and I mean maybe it wasn't exactly that. It was just kind of like that was kind of like us being dragged kicking and screaming into acknowledging the 21st
Right.
century, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we were just, some of the things we definitely really agreed on the
Mm.
subject matter of that album, and I guess yeah, I mean it was definitely, like, I'm not calling out all keyboard warriors by any
No,
means,
yeah.
but it was just kind of like there was maybe a generation of people who don't even realize what things were and now what things are, and
Right.
um, that's kind of where we were going with that one, and
Mm.
um, sure, hip hop, you've got to be uh, sometimes we approach that with sarcasm and
Yeah.
nihilism, and it's like,
Yeah, you definitely do.
you know uh, savage sarcastic breakup poetry with the internet.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, Emotions on His Sleeve was a record, like the first record I put out, that like it had like just everyone, Tech Tie made most of the beats, and Rob
Mm.
Banks, aka Dan from Day One Media, made a couple of the beats on it.
So,
um, it was like the first record we put in for stuff, and that record definitely had that like feeling to it of like he wears his emotions on his sleeve.
mm.
It was just kind of like kind of wanted to have a punkish edge
Right. Yeah,
to it,
yeah. I did
subject
notice a lot
wise.
of your.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. I did notice a lot of your music has a like a punk vibe to it, like rap punk in some cases. I'd almost say you were a little bit ahead of the times in a way because kind of rap punk stuff is kind of coming around again right now. I should say coming around in hip hop in a lot of ways. There's a lot of artists working with like Travis Barker to do their drumming and stuff because it's got this punk vibe to it and stuff. So you're a bit ahead of the curve, I think, on that. And does that come from a deep love of punk? Are you like a punk guy? Did you consider yourself like punk music a big
Yeah. No.
influence?
No. Yeah. No. Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's cool.
massive. Like, I have a Misfits tattoo, man. Like, I
Nice.
love punk music. I've been to probably as many punk shows as hip hop shows, if you don't count the shows that
Nice.
I've played. Right. Obviously,
Mm.
that would be in a situation where I couldn't say that, but definitely I do love punk music, and I do play
Yeah.
punk music like for
Yeah.
fun.
Well,
You
like
know.
I even thought in some of those songs I was thinking like there's distorted guitar. A lot of the vocals are even punkish. There's some like Beastie Boys vibes even. And like I almost thought like this is almost some of the songs are more punk than they are rap songs, which is kind of interesting. Like a lot of people can, you obviously kind of consider yourself a hip hop guy, but there's definitely punk vibrations in there. And I would say in some songs even like more so than others for sure. So I think that's interesting. I think that's a cool thing. Now, I did notice one of your songs. You mentioned kind of like the sarcasm and stuff like that. You have a song called "Weak and Generic" that I thought when I listened to it, I was wondering if that was like It seems so when you listen to it, it seems like a very self-aware diss to yourself, in a way. But I kind of saw it as like a critique on bad rappers and lazy rappers and kind of on like the weak and generic rappers out there, right? So I assume that's what that is, unless you were being very overtly critical of yourself. But I kind of heard it as an interesting perspective take on a weak and generic rapper. Am I right about that one?
I just think my name Eric rhymes with weak and generic.
Oh, so it works
No,
very conveniently with the weak and
yeah,
generic, generic. All right, I see what you're saying. Okay.
no, it's a joke gone too far for sure.
Okay.
No, no, that was we were in a band when we made all that music, so we didn't play that stuff live a whole bunch. We probably only played the Eric Broadbent and DJ Go stuff live, like with the DJ and stuff, maybe like three
Hmm.
times.
Okay.
We were in a band called Dead Airways, and actually we did an interview on CBC actually that your father. So
Yep.
this is not the first Van Aspirin that I've done.
Right. No, that's right. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that makes me feel old. As
That's
horribly,
funny.
horribly old. But shout outs to your
Yeah.
dad. He showed up
Yeah.
to our jam space and did an interview with us for PEI Music Awards for
Mhm.
probably 2008 or 9. So you were probably
Yeah.
like not born then yet or whatever. But
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, shout outs to your pops. Sorry you're
That's too
not
bad. Yeah.
an
He
aspirin. Yeah.
Now he did message me and let me know he'd found a demo that may or may not contain that interview on it, but because it's a CBC interview, he's not sure if he can give it to you without being traced back to, you know what I mean? So what he
Yeah,
said was, so he said your best bet is to maybe email CBC and be like, "Yo, can I get a bit of that footage?" Because at least with their permission, like we can totally, send it your way, but if you wanted to post it on YouTube or something, we wouldn't want to get any trouble involved.
no, it'd be cool to see. I know what it is. Our bass player wasn't there, so I
Mm.
played bass, and it was kind of I mean I can play bass and I wrote the music to it, but it was like kind of risky going on CBC. The bass player was out of town, and I was like, I'll play bass and sing the song. And
Right.
then
Yeah. No, that is actually. Yeah. Especially if it's not something you
I'd be
regularly
curious
do.
to see it just to see if it actually if
The
it if it
translated.
if it's as bad or good as I thought, because I'm sure they played like a 5 second clip of it, right? So your
Mhm.
dad might have just took the most flattering 5 seconds out of
You
it.
might. You might. We'll see.
I could have choked. Yeah.
I'll after this. I'll check the Google Drive. He sent me a link to it.
Same.
I have to download it and stuff, but we'll see. I'll let you know. I'll get to you. I'll get back to you on that one because that's something that's been a long time coming too. You asked me about that quite a while ago, so he had to go through some old footage and stuff to find it, I think. But yeah, so I had some other things kind of I wanted to ask too. I had a whole list of things I scribbled down. Um, and a lot of these are mostly based on your music, by the way. So if you have other things you want to talk about, obviously feel free. I'm not gonna, tell you not to talk about this or that or whatever. I was curious about like what your preferred method is for making music in terms of, you mentioned sampling already. Do you tend to start with samples? Do you tend to start with a beat and then kind of sample on top of it? Like, what's your creative process overall usually?
Depends. So like most of the last records I've done, either Rob's making the beats or Allycat's making the beats or Tech Tie's making the beats. Um, and I'm just finishing up something with DJ Moves, I guess the next record.
Nice.
Um, so definitely back in the day, it was always like get the beat to the point, especially when you're sampling. You want to have an idea of what the melody and the drums are. So
Right.
yeah, a lot of times back in the day it was over a loop that you do more to after, but most of the writing happened over a loop. I mean, a lot of people make loops now.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as I do like having the prearranged beats now, I don't mind. I kind of like that more, especially because I like to have the verse and the hook part.
Hmm.
And I like to be like I'm writing from here to here.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. Me too. Very much so.
I do like to have the beat kind of basically structured like it is. I mean, whatever drops a little bit out of it or something, right? But for the most part, I like to have the hook part and the chorus part, and maybe like the last song we made with Kevo and them, I guess has a refrain. I guess that's what they call it, pre-chorus, refrain, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that now, even if when I'm making the beats, I guess it's been 3 years since I put out a record where I made all the music on it. So there's like, I am kind of punk, right? So if I wrote a bass line, a hook, maybe not a hip hop verse, like where I'm rapping, I don't think I'd play with it, but for sure, like a song where I'm writing it on an instrument and then going to like a drum machine or a drum sample and playing it over it, I might kind of hum out the hook to it for sure, right? There's a couple tracks like that. Television Pilot Teams, that last kind of like real true solo record I put out.
Mhm.
Um, two or three of the songs on that definitely started out on a guitar, but then I definitely the verse parts for sure I didn't write on the guitar, you know.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Do you
like
tend to?
some of those I could play. I could just pick up a guitar and play live for sure. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's cool. A lot of artists, especially hip hop artists, can't do that. So that's that's shows your technical skills, shows your experience and your musicianship, which is always good.
Yeah, that's times changing, but definitely like when I was all your guys' age, like the five guys who rapped here, let's be honest, there are seven maybe. They
Yeah,
all they were all mostly people who could play uh, other instruments, whether it was drums or whatever. And I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's kind of like the Beastie Boys effect, right? It's where like the Beastie Boys could also all like
yeah, yeah.
put the mics down and pick up bass drums and
Yeah, the
guitar.
more or less a band. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Definitely, there was a lot of people who were maybe not super serious about rapping. Not everyone can play instruments. I'm not saying, but I bet
Yeah,
if there were like seven guys rapping here in 1998, that five of them were like also guitar players or drummers or something, right?
yeah,
So it's a good thing to learn some
yeah,
basic learn some basic guitar. You won't regret it. But I'm not
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
I'm not gonna preach to people about the or drums. To be honest,
Drums is a big one. Yeah,
learning a drum machine or just basically banging out some like patterns on a kit.
mm.
Um, it'll definitely help you. I see how that what's that meme everyone's sharing this week? Oh shit, the don't rap over your vocals month, do
Right,
cardio,
right, right.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I think learn an instrument and you'll like have a lot more
Mm.
um you know you'll have a lot more passion for
Yeah.
people hearing you do what you do live and in the moment.
Yeah,
But
and I think there's also like a bleeding effect that happens when you like if you learn drums, I think it bleeds into other instruments and other style
oh
parts of the art form. And I think that goes with probably any instrument. I have a lot of experience with drums myself, so for me, drums has always been like one of the ones that I really stick to. I think it really helps me rhythmically and stuff. But guitars, I think for songwriting, I think guitar and piano are for sure probably the main two. Yeah, for people.
yeah,
I mean, drumming, like you said, drum patterns and stuff. If you can bang those out, or you got a workstation or whatever digital audio station you can do it on, that's awesome too. I think for people starting out in particular, I think for new rappers coming up, I think learning at least the basic process of how to make your own beats and stuff is really key because then you know what you're paying for when you pay a producer to do it.
yeah,
And you can kind of converse with them too if you're not doing it yourself. Whoever is making the beats for you, you can kind of at least have the technical know-it-all here and there to help to make sure they get what you're going for, I guess, or whatever.
yeah. The because there's some simple beats that weren't that simple for people to make, and
Yeah,
there's some super complicated sounding beats that weren't that
yeah,
hard. For
that's
sure.
right. No, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So do you? And you mentioned like kind of how you like to have the hook and the verse, and I'm very same way. Do you tend to try and get the hook figured out right away and kind of build from there, or do you start by just kind of flowing on the verse kind of thing, or does it depend?
Uh, I would say a lot of people are going to agree with this. If um, if it's a beat that took me a while, probably a verse is going to come first, and then I'm
Mm,
just going to have something that I like, and then I might steal a little 2 to 4 bars
mm.
of that verse, and it ends up as the hook, right?
I see what you mean. Yep.
And that's like the writer's block longer song process for me for sure. This is what happens when you're, you know,
Mm.
beep my age, beep years old. The you definitely know you're like, you know what, I can't honestly not say that's what I do. That's fucking what I do, Brayden.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're like if it's like first beat picked for the album, beat you're absolutely like drooling over. For me, it's one of two ways. Nothing is ever good enough, and
Yep.
then something I think is okay. That's probably like one of the better things you've written.
Yeah.
It will suffice, or it's
Yeah.
just like everything feels good, and there's a good, there's just a good flow
Mm.
and cadence to it, and you just,
Yeah.
um, with that said, everything I do is shit and sucks. No, but
I'm much the same way. I think everything I do sucks too. It's never good enough.
yeah,
That's a perfectionist trait. Yeah.
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 But those are definitely the process that I go through.
Mm.
Because I'm like the rest of you. I'm at a point in life where I want to work with, for the most part, either friends or people I admire.
Yeah.
Especially on a solo project, it's good to have, I've got Rob commented there, I've got a song with him in the works. I'm kind of behind on stuff because we just did renos and moved. And
Nice.
so I definitely need to set up soon and finish off some moves and some new songs with Rob and other songs I've been talking, even with you, even starting off you or Spivvy, people have talked about stuff in the last year or so.
Yeah, I'm still getting my. I just moved recently too, so I understand that for sure. It takes a bit to get settled in and get the setup going, and just get it into that creative state again too, especially if you're doing a bunch of other stuff.
I don't really want to rush anything anymore. Either. So like, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not. When you're fresh into the game, I don't think everyone is rushing stuff. I think people have a lot of ideas they want to get out, and generally, I'm at the point where I'd rather, if I'm going to work on something with someone, I definitely want to give them the best, at least stuff I think's pretty cool. I was in Tuck and Roll a couple months ago, and I've known Robbie for, I don't want to say the amount of years, but
a long time.
I've known Robbie for a long time. I'm gonna say it's over a quarter century. Either good that still talk to people I've known that long, or horrible that I'm talking about a large mark of time. But I said at this stage of the game, and I mean this has applied to most of making music. The initial reaction you love from people, it doesn't, I mean, once you get realistic about it, it's pretty cool for people to go, yeah, that's pretty cool. Or, like, I understand what you're doing, and that's pretty cool. And that shit gives me, satisfaction, makes me pretty happy. I don't expect anyone to like, I'm going to go bang down the doors at Interscope Records. Nothing like that, or I'm taking this one to the CHTN right now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if people think it's pretty cool, and Shaman, he said a pretty accurate thing to me. We definitely shoot the shit here and there about various music things, because he put on Iron Mike and stuff, and he was kind of like, he has a good question. He goes, would it play it again? And that's a pretty basic question, but it's a pretty important question. I agree with that.
That's a fair one. For sure.
Yeah, like I said, would I play it again? It doesn't have to be, is it on my all-time top 10 play? That's a pretty intense question. So I kind of like that idea. Like, would someone play it again when they say, "Oh, he just made a new record. I haven't heard him in a while, and he can still do it," or whatever. You don't. But I hear a lot of people. It's not bad to be a young. It's not bad to be a young dude and shoot for the sky either.
Of course. I think as long as people, like you said, I think a lot of people when they start off, especially, they might be a bit unrealistic with their expectations.
That's what I mean. The purpose of being an old head is. Sorry to kind of This is all I'm going to say. The purpose of being an old head is to like be a source of gravity.
No, that's a good way of putting it. Actually, that's a very good way of putting it. And it's also like in a mentorship type of way too. It's also important to reel the young guys in too, because it's pretty easy for them to get ahead of themselves and ahead of their skis a bit in terms of their ideations of where they are in their career, where they're going to be in their career, or like how they're perceived, or how good the quality of their songs are even, and stuff like that, right? It's very easy when you're inside your own bubble to get really obsessed with your own material or really hyped on your own stuff, and then you expect certain things when you bring it out in the world. Like you said, it's important for the old heads to be there to guide people a little bit and give them some advice here and there, or tell them like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this way because you might, who knows, right? Whatever it might be.
It's not even that much. It's even just the awareness of like, just being humble is it does take you far.
Yeah, I do think a big part of the reason that I get the opportunities I do to perform is because I'm most of the times when I walk into a place, whether it's a studio or a live show, I consider myself the dumbest person or the least experienced person in the room, and I try and learn from everybody. And I think a lot of people, whether they catch on to that part of my attitude or the fact that I'm just like kind of happy to be there, I think that does help go a long way, though.
But
Whether
don't
it's you know,
forget, this isn't me, but I you know,
mm,
but I always say this to people. Um, well, people, other once you played enough hip hop shows with 7 people playing at them, but and
mm,
I feel like I've said this to Allycat too. You know, act like you belong. you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the that for me is I think that's important. Don't act like you're
mm,
better than anyone. Just
yeah, yeah,
you know, music is so many and most I would say that crosses any uh genre, you know what I mean? If you're humble, respectful, but still act like you belong, you know what I mean? When it's your time,
yeah,
take your uh take your do your thing,
yeah.
do
Take the spotlight or whatever. Yeah,
it's I mean that's the great thing about hip hop is it's not as subgenred as maybe rock and roll, right? Like I
yeah,
said, old
yeah.
saying rock and roll because there's so many subgenres, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah. Yeah, people almost won't say rock and roll for a generic rock band anymore. It'll be alt rock or some niche thing, like you said. That's right. They break it
yeah,
down into all these little
whatever.
cuts.
15 years ago, indie rock was kind of dominating it where it was,
Yeah.
and then 30 years ago there was grunge, and
Mm,
uh, in the 80s there was kind of
yeah.
hair metal, but really it was just
Mm,
hard rock with
yeah.
uniforms. But
Yeah, exactly. With uniforms. Yeah. Yeah.
but
With
yeah, I
perms.
mean,
Yeah.
everything has a uniform, right?
Mm,
Like hip hop music after a certain point is very there's very much styles that dominate what.
yeah.
And I'm sitting in a swivel chair. That's why the background's moving.
No, that's cool.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the hip hop prior to the kind of gangster rap
Mm.
renaissance. And if anyone wants to steal that from me, it's probably already been said. Everything's already
Gangster rap
said.
renaissance. It's actually not a bad title for an album about that kind of music.
Yeah, not mine,
Yeah.
no, but that definitely there was like a distinct style of what people expected a rapper to look like. But definitely
Right.
before that, like you would not say that Run DMC and Tribe Called Quest and Africa Bambaataa rock the same style at a show,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know. No, definitely right.
And I mean now current hip hop fashion evokes more of like Grandmaster Flash and those guys in the
Mm.
early '80s, right? Like the tight jeans and the leather jackets.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like maybe the only difference is the face tattoos and
Yeah. Dyed
and,
hair and grills.
the colored
Yeah.
hair, but really, like, really, you look at that fashion, that definitely the current like kind of evokes that the boots and the leather gloves that all those guys kind of if there was an original Run DMC kind of took it to another level with the hats, but
Mm.
definitely the two then late '90s early 2000s the backpack kind of
Yeah. Yeah. The
style
back.
and stuff.
Yep.
It um it um yeah I mean, I guess what I'm saying, and then I'm going to say the exact opposite of this, right? I'm circling around with it, but
Mm.
there's definitely a few, 3 or 4 obvious eras more. But anyway, just for purposes
Yeah.
of not
Yeah.
talking forever, there's definitely like, don't be afraid to do something a little different. I'm not saying like
Mhm.
fucking be Tom McDonald or anything
Yeah.
silly
Yeah.
like that. More
Yeah.
not that or anything, but
Yeah.
definitely it's like anything. A lot of musical genres are like that. There's kind of a uniform to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm not saying that would work for anyone. I'm just saying it's cool to see people who do things that you know stick out. I
Yeah.
guess because you expect a certain thing. It doesn't change my opinion on music. I'm too old to not be able to close my eyes and listen to something, but
Yeah.
it's cool to see something packaged differently, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like to give you some credit, I think you're a very like original creator in the space that you've created. Like when I was listening to your music the other night, I was going, there's not a lot of artists that really are, I think, willing to be as bold as you are in some of those songs. And like you said, not afraid to kind of show yourself in a different like I said with the punk stuff. A lot of rappers wouldn't be willing to show their love for punk music in a rap song or in their rap music or in an album. So that kind of speaks to what you're saying about don't be afraid to kind of put yourself in a different light or do some things a bit differently. You're a guy who's done that yourself. So credit to you for doing that. I think that's it's so easy for people to just make a bunch of generic beats these days and rap generic shit over them. And you come from a time, to be fair, also where that's things have changed a lot, like you said, right? Things have changed a lot in the industry.
Yeah.
So originality is hard. It's hard to be original these days. I think a lot of people think all the good ideas have been taken or something, but there's still plenty of new ways to present things, like you said. So
There's a few cats around here I'd love to see come out with a live band, to be honest,
that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
I
Yeah.
I would say, bug Allycat to, or someone to, just do a little synth work and a little turntable work with a live band. You probably come out with a pretty awesome hip hop project, especially if you're younger and you got the time to jam a few times a week. I wouldn't just say like, oh, just expect musicians to do it. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
like that. Definitely, you'd have to kind of be like, I'm gonna work on. I'm gonna work on. This is what I do. It's definitely something to be done right. You just kind of have to do. But
Yeah. Sorry,
no,
my neighbor
there's
decided to lawn mow, so let me go inside.
it is nice and overcast out.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I think there's a few people who could probably. I know you have some live music experience. It is a lot of work. There's a few people I think would sound. Tyler Carmody would sound pretty with a live band doing like kind of, even he'd sound cool with like a 3-piece kind of punkish band, like just kind of doing what he does.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, maybe rather sometimes than getting beats with a bunch of samples in them, he might sound cool just being like a little bit of a punk. you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
going hard on it. But that's just an easy way for me to articulate. If you know his stuff, he's very alternative, and he probably sound
Yeah.
pretty cool. You know,
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
at a punk show, just coming out like that. But
Mm.
I don't want to tell. I don't want to say either. A lot of people, um, love hip hop and want to make hip hop.
Yeah.
Definitely do that. And you're probably not wrong. I kind of agree with you earlier on the sense learning to make beats. It's not really about you making all the beats for your music, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just more like, if you can make a beat, even a half-ass beat, you can send, especially if you're paying for beats.
Mm.
You can send someone your half-ass beat, and I've done this before with stuff that I just didn't feel like, I was doing it right, but I was like, this is like the tempo and kind of the sound. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
lot easier, even if you're, just doing it in a free program. If you can kind of tap out the basic sound you're going for with something, you can send that to and you can send that to a pro, and they
Yeah.
can really take it to the next level. And you're really a co-writer on the beat too, right?
Yep.
So you're
Yep.
definitely setting the skeleton for it. Especially if you've got like a really distinct idea. Was that a border
Mhm.
collie?
Yeah, yeah, it's Willie. I've been ignoring him too long, so he's going crazy. He wants me to play with him. Calm down,
Uh,
dude. Yeah, he's a good dude.
yeah,
Um,
I'm not as much of a dog expert as you think, but
no,
that's a
calm
good
down,
spot,
dude.
I think.
No, I think I totally agree with you for sure, and I've actually done that myself a couple times where I've made some beats, and I'm very minimalist with my own beat making. And you'll notice, like in my first EP, a lot of those beats I made myself, and they're very simplistic. And after that, I started doing what you said, literally sending it to a couple producers. Paid one of them, I think it was $200, and they leveled up three or four of my beats. And that's something I think a lot of hip hop guys, especially if you're on a budget, it's a big way of helping can curb some of those costs. I think
Well, and if you have
like a vision, yeah.
some people are just like, you know, they have bars for days and they just need
Mhm.
beats. They don't,
Yeah.
they're like, you know what, I could do this over a lot of stuff. And as long as it clicks when I do it, that's cool. And that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's sick if you do it like that. But some people are also definitely like need like they have an idea like this has to be over some grimy shit, man. This
Yeah.
needs to like it's not going to evoke the feelings I need to, you know,
Yeah.
it's not gonna, it needs to trigger a certain thing in me before I put it out in the world.
Yeah.
And that definitely that shit definitely helps with that.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that's a big thing for me. I
And
get sent plenty of beats and I don't dig them, but the ones that catch me in like catch the right emotional tone or whatever, I know right away I can write something good on them. I know immediately almost.
and it's when you get to the point where you can drop a bit on a beat, especially now where we're in an era where, you know, singles are pretty legit to drop.
Mhm.
Um, I think, you know, you don't hesitate to approach, you know, a producer who you can afford and talk to them. They're still going to want, you know, they're going to want you to have what you want from what they do.
Mhm.
Um, so, you know, you might want to approach like a DJ Moves or, you know, uh, someone like that, or just
Mhm.
someone you know you dig what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably better off to approach someone with what your budget is, and more often than not, you'll probably find they'll they'll hook you up,
Yeah.
especially if you're it's like, you know, you're recording on your own anyway, you're gonna master it yourself, all
Yeah.
that stuff. If you just need the raw materials, you know, um, in the era kind of dropping a single,
Mhm.
um, I would say definitely it's better to make one super, you know, track you're super happy with. And that definitely gives you a blueprint for others. I don't know if people
Yeah.
aspire to do you young cats, I've switched to the interviewer. Do you young cats aspire to make records anymore? Like
Yeah.
12,
I do at
18?
least. I
Do
think
you
we definitely live in an
not
era.
EPs, not EPs,
No.
like an actual album? Like, do you want to put out like a
Yeah.
20 song, 18 song record with skits?
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe not skits. I'm not big on skits myself. I'm more of an interlude guy. Where like, you know, I'd like maybe a different mood to the music or a different like, you know, like a passage that's kind of chill if the rest of the record's more upbeat or
Yeah.
something like that. But it would have to be the right kind of skits for me. I've found in hip hop in general, a lot of skits I find take me out of the music or they're like trying to be too funny and I'm maybe the music doesn't fit that. You know what I mean? Um,
Do
Eminem always had
you?
pretty good skits, I guess, but I always
Yeah.
found them just to be a little like I understand his comedy in them, but for me, I never listened to Eminem for his funniness. It was always just the raw emotion that I really dug. So the skits, like I said, they take me away a little bit. That's like a preference thing, 100% though. I
You
do definitely want to do full albums. I think I'm a big concept guy, so for me, a concept album or like an album about a very specific theme or set of ideas is something I really like to do. But yeah, the singles, like the Spotify single release method era, is it's hard to get around that almost. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, they
and
tell you to
the
release
two
the
and a half
single.
the 2.5 minute or less songs, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're real
You do
short.
you Yeah, I find because I just dropped a 5 minute song.
Yeah,
The 2 minute songs are really get the views on Spotify.
yeah,
The
yeah.
so but do you find, so you said interlude more than
Mhm.
skit. Do you
Yeah.
find that's like, and I found this listening as a, you know, a very long time listener to hip hop, longer than I've been performing it.
Yeah.
Uh, the interlude, you know, everybody, especially pre 1996, has musical interludes and skits. You know, that's
Yeah.
why old hip hop albums are 20 tracks.
Right.
Not that some still aren't, but don't you find sometimes you're like, oh, you're throwing the beat away, no one's rapping, or, you
That's
know,
a good thing too. Yeah.
anything over it, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it's 56 seconds, and it could have been like this sick three
Yeah.
minute song or whatever, right?
That's fair.
Um,
You know, yeah, that's
that
fair.
thought has always, that thought um, even before I made hip hop music, like 12, 13 years old, just buying rap CDs
Yeah.
and tapes. Definitely that thought would cross my mind, like, oh, no one's gonna rap over this,
This
especially
is good material. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first
I
time
feel
you
that.
hear it, you're like, you're waiting for someone to come in, you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit. and then it's over, and you're like, oh, just kind of
Yeah, where
segued into
yeah.
another song. Shit.
No, that's fair. That's a good point. And there's even some songs where trying to think of an example offhand. I can't really, but like maybe near the end of the song or the outro, they'll have a beat switch or some kind of something they do to the beat, and then they just leave it like that for the 30 seconds. And I'm like, that could have been a whole song in itself too. Like sometimes these things they do to kind of change up the song near the end or or even in the intro is cooler than some of the middle part of the song. And I'm like, man, you should have made that like expand on that idea too. You know, it's a struggle, right? And there is something to like what you said, the 2 minute, 30-second single thing. These days, myself, I try and go for shorter tracks because the idea is get them the idea as quickly, I guess, like in and out. And then if they want to hear it again, they just replay it instead of like the 5 minute track where I guess the idea being they'll listen to it maybe once and then they've got it. It seems like at least maybe it's an attention span thing too. But it seems like people, I mean, I think part of the reason that these smaller tracks get more plays is because it's like you said, it's 2 minutes and then they just hit replay and they can hear it again, you know, and if the chorus is super catchy, they're going to want to hear it a million times anyway or whatever. It's a weird thing.
Chuck D said the third verse is dead.
It is, yeah, no, that's exactly right. Can't remember who it was that was performing recently, and they had a third verse on their song, and I was like, holy shit, a third verse. Yeah. I was like literally shocked. I don't remember who it was. It was somebody local here. And I was like, good for you. You did it. Yeah.
Not too often unless there's 3 rappers in the song.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's right. Yeah. I think the only 3-verse song I have is because there's 2 rappers in it. I might be, and to be fair, that's partly because of the production too. Like a lot of the producers these days, if they are making beats, they're doing 2-verse beats. You know, and then the choruses and all that shit. Yeah. Third verse, I think is, especially for certain types of tracks, like if it's a story, I think like a storytelling kind of song, I think a third verse is key because you have the beginning, middle, end. For more poppy stuff, the 2 verses I think is all they need because maybe it's just kind of more quiche anyway, and I don't think there's as much depth. I think the third verse is better for those songs where there's depth to them too, or if it's just like so catchy and fire and upbeat of a beat or whatever.
I do like a good like third verse or outro refrain myself also.
Yeah.
Like little 4-bar second kind of little hook to end it out or even to segue into another hook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of I have a few third verses that are half verses that are kind of like or just things like that, just weird, just do some weird out of structure shit, but always make sure it's even bars. If Mark hears this, Allycat, you know, it's definitely got to be at least 4, 6, or 12. But he likes having his verses all the same.
Yeah, I just released a song recently, and it was really strangely structured. I kind of talked to the producer a bit even just to make sure I wasn't like reading the structure of the song wrong, essentially. And it was 8 bars for the first verse, 16 for the second verse. And then it had like pre-choruses and bridges. It was a very like, as far as a hip hop song goes, it was a lot of structure to it, very like kind of a strange structure. And I even was kind of confused, like, what do I do with 8 bars in the first part? I kind of just give people an idea roughly. I can't really expand on the idea too much in that time. So the whole idea was like the first verse was just kind of like a reflective thought. And then the second verse, which is the full 16 bars, I really gave like the message of the song. And it came out okay, but there's definitely something structurally odd about that. Kind of the shorter first verse I thought was definitely strange.
Isn't it funny when you write a hook and then you're like, I don't know if I'm talking about this. I don't know if I said anything that I like the way they sound together, but I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a real big like I think a lot of people want artists to have a full understanding of an exact meaning of their songs when they make them. And I think that's a misnomer. Like I think a lot of times I don't want people to be too vague and have a song about nothing, but I think having some like loose idea is fine too. Like, yeah, I think this song mostly is about kind of, it touches on parts of my life, but it's not exactly, you know, biographical maybe, or, you know, like I think there needs to be some leeway for creative kind of, just for our writers to have fun. It doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to be like, oh yeah, my song is about this. Like it can be about a lot of things. It can be about different things to different people. And I think people got to remember that. I think a lot of people want like you to be like, oh yeah, my song's about my dog. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, you know,
write a song about your dog. I love songs about your dog. I wrote songs about sandwiches and like dinner and stuff for sure.
Hey, there you go.
I gotta be who I am as an old dude, man. I gotta write about the things I love in life that I haven't written about. And you know, I was
Hmm.
kind of, nobody wrote a song about sandwiches. Do you know what's awesome in the middle of the day?
A sandwich. Yeah.
Sandwich, holy shit.
Yeah. No, that's true. And well, like, but you know, one of my favorite bands actually, for example, is System of a Down. They had a whole song that was about pizza. You know what I mean? Pizza pie or whatever the hell that. I don't remember the name of that song is, but the whole song is about opening a fridge and finding pizza and naming the ingredients.
And
You know what I mean?
they like chop suey too, because they have a whole
Yeah,
song about chop suey.
exactly,
You
right?
know?
So I think there's like I guess what I should say is not necessarily that the meaning of a song has to be deep or that the artist has to specifically know like oh, this is about this specific thing, but yeah, having fun with it is important. I think is really a key thing. Like you said, writing about like sandwiches, that's a fun thing and it's funny, and these days too in the TikTok era. A song about a sandwich could fucking go viral. You know what I mean? No, who knows? You know what I mean? That's the weird part about it. The ridiculous ideas of music that even if it's a 20-second segment of your song even can now go viral or become a whole weird sensation on the internet just because of that weirdness.
A lot of us older dudes, we watched Buck 65 kind of be the first, even before classified locally, like
Yeah.
not, but regionally.
Mm.
Definitely watched him kind of be the first guy to really blow up, and even like my parents knew who he was
Yeah,
20
yeah.
years, right? And they're not hip hop fans,
No, yeah, yeah.
but they had an idea of who he was, right? And he was writing songs about like then and now, not about
Mm.
stuff anyone else is writing songs about. So I definitely always thought some people can pull that off, you
Yeah, yeah.
know.
Yep.
Don't you don't know what your lane is until you've gone in the carpool lane and
Yeah.
the fast lane.
Hmm.
Maybe where you excel is in the carpool lane and
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the fast lane. you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
But
yeah.
he was definitely writing songs about like, if you write about crazy shit, you are eventually gonna come up with the best fucking
Right.
metaphors.
Mm.
I'm not saying like always get super baked and write about fucked up shit or anything. Some
Yeah.
guy from PEI was like saying, but I'm just saying it from being a long time listener, first time caller. Um, you know, there's something true to that, and
Mm.
like, and I can tell you a song that exactly the song Centaur. Do you ever
Mm.
listen to that song? Do you know what song I'm talking about?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Centaur by Buck 65. Definitely, we love that. That was a
Oh,
jam.
okay.
The beat definitely is super dope,
Mm.
dramatic, super dope,
Yeah.
grimy. Um, I don't know if everyone would describe that as grimy. Someone maybe shut the Eric. Did you even hear that song? No, I've opened for Buck 65 a couple times and seen him play
Nice.
more. And at that time, definitely, that song was it had like a 12-inch single and shit, big deal in whatever
Mm.
1998. But anyway, the song definitely has great metaphors for like how people would exploit a centaur if one
Oh,
popped up in 1999
oh, I see.
modern
Okay.
world. Yeah, all the things you'd exploit a centaur for, right? Like it would be
Mm.
a centaur would for sure, once people got over it, would be in porn, and
Yeah.
all anyone would care about was its love life and stuff, right? Like anyone who's heard that
Yeah.
song, is kind of my idea of saying you can't just pick any fucked up thing, but if you can pick a fucked up thing, it's not like if you can pick a crazy fantasy thing and find all those great metaphors. Don't think that you've got to stay in the lane of what everyone expects you to do. If you can
Right.
make something fucking special and
Yeah.
amazing
Off the beaten
like that,
path. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
That's not everyone's thing, but I wouldn't say don't. If you have an idea like that, flesh it out and do it for other people. It might be horrible, but it's definitely something that those guys, him and that him, those him and 6-2 Sevitones, that stuff from that era, have albums of made a career of, Damaka Killingbird and
Right.
Centaur, and like they have so many tracks that are just
Mm.
cool weird ideas that just spawned great metaphors. I mean, I
Yeah.
love uh Ariel joined there, and it's like we played a show with Razcast and his band, his group, JMO Gang, a few years ago, and it's like one of my favorite Razcast songs. I didn't even know if he played it, but he did. He played Razcastination or whatever, and I thought that's such a cool play on words with his name,
Yeah.
right? You know, sometimes something that you think is going to be so might not work. Will it work? I don't know. If you get a sick beat behind it, like another example, like a pretty sick beat behind it, and you know, he's like at times a top 10 rapper in the world, so he can kind of back up doing a song called Rascassination about fascinating MCs.
Well,
but
yeah.
Those are just ideas where fucking sick metaphors turned into something so big, and that's a title track for Rascast's second album. Right. And I remember being like 17, 18, buying that. You can probably guess my age by looking up when that record came out. But anyway, yeah, I think definitely if we're going to talk about writing, and man, I love me some good metaphors. I'll say that, and metaphors generally come from kind of testing out some out there ideas.
Yeah, flipping some things on their head for sure. Yeah, I found with a lot of my own writing, I'll try and take like a phrase or a common saying and then try and flip it around and try and make it a bit different and maybe have a slightly altered meaning or reverse the meaning entirely, stuff like that.
You'd get banned from you'd get rejected from Spotify and stuff, but your song Airplanes, I always thought, if you were gonna do the scratches yourself, oh my God, what's that? There's another song called Airplanes, right?
Oh, and
like you could totally sample that, but you couldn't
mash them up.
Version. Airplanes in the night sky. That I don't.
It's one of my favorite songs. That's by Bob B.O.B. That guy's great. Yeah, I
have that CD or record here of it somewhere. But anyway,
2010 Adventures of Bobby Ray. That's a great album. That's a really good album. A lot of good features in there.
But we're in an era where, for us to put music out, we get kind of scanned before we do it. So you can't really, and I realized that early on in those things, because like some of my earlier records definitely had a lot of samples on them, and if you learn to chop them, do it. But vocal samples like that are sometimes can break your heart, because they work so well in something like that, even just scratched in as an echo behind it. It's funny, I'm just using one of your own things as an example of something that'd be pretty sick. But at a live show, man, let's I'll have to slip that sample to slip
That's the way to do it. That's right. If you're willing to, if you're okay with not like putting it on Spotify or the monetized part or whatever, like you can even YouTube it, I think, and maybe, I don't know if you get copyright struck for that, but maybe the money would just go to their song. I don't know. It's hard to know.
If you want to put it on a live version of YouTube, I think you should just have a cool, like, not remix, but like a cool live version of it.
You'd think that'd fall under fair use or something too, but with sampling, they've got all kinds of kind of strict laws. It seems like they're pretty careful about that.
A live version would be quite cool.
Yeah, it'd be the way to get around it, probably. Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
I would just do it on a live version sometimes. Trust me. You have turntables, don't you?
I do, yeah, I do. They're not like Allycats. They're not great, but I can do them. Yeah. It's just like a DJ Platinum deck. It's not ideal, but it. My whole point for getting it was that I'd be able to spin for my own shows if I needed to, in case I was like solo performing or whatever. And I didn't want to be the guy to show up with a cell phone and plug in my cell phone to the speaker system and then have a phone call midway through my set or something.
I've still got a mixer packed away. I never take it out, and the actual turntable, I like just play records for listening to for my own personal pleasure is an actual like turntable you DJ with. But when I've had it for years. When my son was 2, I was doing something where I went to another room, and I had just gotten a copy of Hot Sauce Committee Part 2 by Beastie Boys.
Okay.
And, my turntable used to be outside the bathroom, so I had a hot shower going. I was like, "Oh, this is sick! I'm gonna put this on super loud so I can hear it because the speakers were right outside, and I was like, yeah, my first listen
Yeah.
to the new Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
And so I go in and I'm like, do, because who doesn't like good music playing in the shower? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, Too Many Rappers with Nas comes on, and I hear, and you're like, ah, no, who's doing that? And my little 2-year-old boy's out there scratching.
Scratching up the thing. Oh, were the records all good? Like the records were all right, probably.
He
Eh? They
didn't
weren't.
do anything to it.
No?
No, I still have the same.
That's pretty cool though. He's like,
It was funny just to be like, because I know that's one of the first songs on whatever side I put on, and I just know, and I love that song. I was like, that be the one with Nas, but I just remember going in and being like, yeah, I'm kind of, dude, this is good stuff, man, yeah,
yeah. So,
and then just, who's doing that? No, you cut it off. But yeah, that's the only thing about having turntables that everyone knows they can scratch on. You
right.
You got to watch it with your kids. I know lots of dudes who have kids coming up and everything. And I'm sure, Lizleo will have little Lizleo.
Yeah, Lizleo Jr.
If they have turntables, he'll have the same problem.
Oh, okay. So how did, speaking of Lizleo, how did your project with him, Heat Rise, come up? Heat Rise, right? I think it's Heat Rise, not Heat Rises. I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's Heat Rise.
Yeah. What? I was talking to him at Ariel, like that again, Ariel's live stream event, and probably that was end of 2020, and then I said, yeah, man, I'll FaceTime you and we'll talk about stuff after the show. And we talked about some shit, and we said, yeah, we'll do a feature at some point. And to anyone I've said I'd do a feature on, like, this is a good example. Like, it was definitely the summer before he sent me something. But I did finish it, especially when something bursts. I'm usually pretty good to finish, especially when there's something that he just wants me to throw a part on. And I had some lines that I had floating around, so it just kind of came together quick. And he had an idea, so it's always good to have an idea for a featured artist. And I said at the time, hopefully I'm not putting out anything this year, so I'll definitely do all the paperwork and get it in for MusicPEI this year. That feels like a long time ago too, but I guess it was just
wasn't that long ago. No, that was the last MusicPEI Awards. Yeah, that's right. Wasn't long ago. Yeah, your version that's really good, by the way. I really like that song. That's a good one.
No. And it was cool. We finally got to play it live there last month.
Yeah. Maybe at my show you guys will be able to also in August, I'd imagine. I
say to him, I'm hoping to do that song with him and Kevo. If they're one or both of them are around, we'll hopefully kick that out.
Kevo, he's awesome.
Yeah, they're both super talented young cats. Actually, a friend of mine one of the PEI Encyclopedia guys came to that show with me, and he was definitely like, he had not been really to a show on PEI since we were playing like bar shows at the Diamond Nine in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was like, oh, it's sick to see all these young people. It's nice to see all these young people coming out and doing everything, and they don't suck,
Yeah.
To circle around to a point of what I was saying earlier, it's like when you're old, like a compliment is saying like, oh, that's awesome. They all don't suck. They don't make me want to leave the room. It's cool, man. No, but he was definitely like, oh no, it's cool that it's cool that people look like they've there's lots of people coming up who look like they've put some time into the art they're putting out in the world, and it feels like it's actual art with thought in it, and that's always important to me.
Yeah, big time. I think every show that I've been to, at least, there's always, and I'm not going to list it like by name, any of the ones, but like you can always tell some of the artists take it more seriously than others. You can tell which ones are really, like you said, put some thought into the craft and into the art, and other ones that are, just there maybe to spit some flows or to, drop some bars or whatever and have a good time. And that's cool too. But I do definitely think there's, I definitely am more interested and pay more attention to the ones that, show up and they seem like they're the professionals and they're really trying to build towards something. Because to me, I have a lot of respect for that. I think, like I said, I'm not trying to slag on anybody who just likes to, get up on the mic and drop some rhymes or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, obviously, as a guy who's really trying to pursue it as a, as a possible career someday, or at least something close to it, it's always for me way more interesting and exciting to see those people that are really putting their time into the craft. And you can tell every time they perform if they're getting better or if they've got new
Yeah.
stuff or you know what I mean.
I assume that someone who I know is like playing their first, second, or third show, there's like jitters, and they're just gonna do
Mm-hmm.
the song, get to the
Yeah.
start, and finish of it. And I'm generally not too judgmental of
Yeah.
anything except the music and what they're doing. It's some people definitely have. I can definitely tell what some cats want to be or are trying to even people who maybe don't have the best music still are pretty good at letting the audience know who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's generally a sign of like they know what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few dudes I don't know personally, but I've seen just played some gigs with over the last year or so. And yeah, definitely they definitely have a certain thing they want to do with what they're doing, and that's cool. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's cool to see. It reminds me of definitely when I first got into hip hop, when I see people try to do something kind of. They're not trying to emulate everybody else. They definitely have like
Yeah.
a thing they want to do and be known for, and they want to go in their own. They want to
Mm-hmm.
go in their own lane. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's pretty dope too.
Yeah, that is for sure. Yeah, and speaking on the jitters thing, I've found that myself even. I think maybe 3 times. I've only performed maybe a dozen times, like at like shows, and probably less than that, probably like 10. But I think maybe 3 of them I remember kind of feeling the jitters more than others. And it's weird because usually it's not the ones I would have expected to feel jitters for, if that makes sense. Like I found like at the Canada Day show there, I was a little nervous at that one. I ended up blowing my voice out actually because I was like, I ended up not doing my proper warm up or not being hydrated enough or something. And I was a bit more nervous for that show than I was for like some of the other ones that I would have had more people. You know what I mean? Like have more people at them or had maybe what felt like more stakes or something, or maybe more peers were around that
Yeah.
I was trying to, you know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing.
You know what really I wish all ages shows, because me and John Michael definitely met up with Ty and the basement kind of gang when we were about 17 and started playing shows with him, but it was all punk shows. So
Mm,
like when you're kind of losing yourself in it and crowd surfing and shit, we don't really do that at shows anymore.
mm,
And I'm not even saying that like everyone should try and bring that back, but it just like that was definitely like a massive. For one thing, you're the only hip hop
yeah.
act there, right? But definitely when you're like when you have a super rowdy crowd that you can feed off, and you're like stage diving, and you know it's I definitely can't compare what my experience was in my late
Mm,
teens, early 20s, to what you guys do, because everything is definitely like I was already like playing hip hop live for 5 or 6 years before
yeah.
someone was like, I just want to do hip hop shows. I don't want to do
Mm,
shows where the band is
right, right,
playing.
right.
Not so much saying that was me or anything, but definitely like I remember a time when like people I played gigs with were definitely like, um, you know, I'd rather just, and then those like Ty would be one of them actually, and he definitely like he did things where he got classified over here,
Right.
different time. J Brew classified, Pimp T, like someone shared a poster from that from like the year 2000 or 99, and it was like, it's crazy. That's like 10 years ago, right? But someone was saying like, that show would be that'd be like a $40 or $50 show now. You know what I mean? Like classified and
Yeah.
special.
Yeah,
Jay,
yeah, no, good.
like the poster, I think said like $5.
Damn. Yeah, yeah.
If classified went to UPI and played for $5, there'd be
Mm.
so many people there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it'd be a pretty busy spot. Yeah, yeah.
But it was definitely like at Ghetto. I think it was like Ghetto Socks classified, like a whole bunch of people who just
Mm.
would all pile in a couple cars and
Nice.
come over. I definitely did that a few times back in the day.
That's cool.
Yeah, but that was like definitely the beginning of switching from, you know, I remember opening for Flush and like or Port Citizen, like bands that were like guys, you know, of my generation, I guess you'd say, were playing around then. So different experience, especially playing at like you know, we play punk shows in Summerside, all age punk shows and stuff. And I do see all age punk shows going on still, but I don't know how hip hop will go over because people are a lot more exposed to it at an earlier age now, so
Right.
it's not kind of like back in our day where some people were like, I kind of know the Fresh Prince. Is this
Yeah.
kind of like that show? You know, because that show was technically still on TV back then.
Right. Yeah. No joke. Yeah. That's funny.
But
But I know what you mean. The novelty of it isn't quite the same as it would have been, I guess, is
I
kind
don't
of what
even know
you
if it's a novelty. It's just like
mean.
people have there's more of a preconceived notion of what
Right. Right. Right.
a rapper coming out is
Yeah. Yeah.
gonna do or whatever. But I don't know. But again, I'm not saying prove me wrong, young fella. But
Yeah.
you know, it would be something definitely worth seeing if you feel like you've got a pretty hype set. Seeing if you can. And I mean, we always used to, you know, freestyle over live bands and stuff then too, or even just like get a live band to play like a sample. Everything was sampled back then, like loops, right?
Yeah.
Equipment to do that. So, you know, someone would play like a loop of Back in Black by AC/DC or something, and we'd do one of our, you
Nice.
know, songs over it that would
Yeah.
fit. So those things were probably more hype in my memory than they actually were, but were still pretty fun and definitely good memories for me for sure. I don't know. I think that's definitely a big thing that's changed for sure.
Do you think the live energy in general at shows is still a bit muted, maybe because of like the pandemic or something? I do wonder if people are just, I don't know, maybe if it's like, maybe it's the generation too, like you said, maybe it's these younger cats, maybe it's because cell phones are everywhere and cameras and people are more worried about getting like a bit wild. Like, do you think there's something you can attribute directly to maybe why some of the shows, at least what I've noticed since 2020, I feel
I'll
like,
say, especially with the Fortunato show, when you've got like a headliner who's a draw. I found there was people who came in and started getting into it though, right?
The Fortunato show had a great turnout too. That was the crowd was pumped for
but
that.
that show is a good example of like, are people still a little shy to come up front? It was the amount of crowd to get through, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's like coming up out of water. There's a 3 to 6 foot emptiness in front of the stage, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I saw, you know, the perfect person to ask for that would be Allycat. You could say, because there's probably no one on PEI who's really witnessed more shows, different genres of music happening. Like, are people doing that at, you know, heavier music? Are people dancing on the Thursday jazz night there? Are people, you know, are people doing whatever at a metal show? What you would do in a venue of Bubba's size? Are people?
Yeah, that's right. You know, that is part of it too.
People kind of thrashing. I don't know. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say like there's a mosh pit or anything.
No.
But are people thrashing around? Are people going up front and yelling, or is that not happening at anything? He'd be the guy to ask to gauge it. I'm sure at bigger like 500, 1,000 person events, people are.
Yeah.
Probably, but yeah, it's hard to say at the 100, 200 person.
Yeah, the smaller venue, especially because Bubba's very narrow too. You're right. That might be partly something to do with it. Yeah. And how about like as for venues, do you think there's maybe some better venues for artists in particular in hip hop to maybe focus on? Like Bubba's is obviously a very is a great stage because they allow pretty much anything, you know. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean like they're very open to different genres and ideas of what artists are and let them perform. There's not, I don't think, a lot of stages that allow that on PEI or in our region. Do you think there's some that we should focus on more than others maybe, or should we be trying to do all age shows like you said, maybe at fire halls or whatever? Or what do you think would be maybe the best path forward for a lot of these guys?
I think we're definitely at the point, and I may do this, where you do a pop-up shop style album launches, right?
Nice.
If you're gonna, especially if you're dropping like an EP or something, where you play 4 or 6 songs at a coffee shop, like on a Saturday afternoon when maybe it's not the hypest time, but a lot of people
Right.
have free time then. So and it gives you a cool video opportunity because you're probably not dealing with intoxicated people. So I feel like a tiny desk thing, and this is just on a
Mm.
smaller level for people, like especially if you're dropping a single and you're just gonna play, you know, 3 or 4 of your songs and then play your single to end it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a pretty cool thing. Back Alley was doing that for a while.
Really? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's other kind of cool shops like that around. I don't want to, especially if you know the people. That could be something cool. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
how.
gonna be.
I don't know how into that shops are yet, but there's
Mm.
like lots of delis and little fucking coffee shops and stuff around town. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. That'd be kind of a pretty dope thing. I would definitely not waste the opportunity and not get the footage from it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so that could be pretty fucking cool. I think that's as far as like I'm just saying because you implied to me what's different. What could you do? What could people do different?
Yeah, yeah.
That could be pretty cool. I don't know about all ages shows, man. They're so risky because most all ages shows are put on by all ages people for all ages people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if you feel like you know the people and you have the infrastructure to do it, then yeah. And anything like I went to business school and I can say if you have, and if you apply, going back to our earlier points talking about grants and stuff,
Mm.
if you business wise, if it makes sense, and you feel like it's a good use of your time and it's not going to uh, negatively financially impact anyone involved, and you're realistic about the expectations, and maybe an all ages show could be viable.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Arts Guild probably has. I didn't see. I didn't. No one ever said really. I know there was a show there recently. I don't. Did you play
Mm.
it? You played that show, right?
The Small Island Dreamers one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like a venue like that depends how you felt about it. I know they couldn't serve alcohol there, so that
Yeah, yeah.
that affects the Saturday night show anyway on how, you know how certain things might go. Hunters used to
Yeah.
be pretty cool.
Yeah, Hunters doesn't seem as keen on hip hop as they used to be. They definitely were big
No,
hard rock venue, and I don't even think they're that big into that anymore. I might be wrong, but
they might just not. They might just not. It just might not be. Music just might
yeah,
not fill the place, and that's a business decision, and it's not
yeah,
always.
yeah. No, yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, outside of the downtown core, as far as what everyone's doing here, other than trying to connect with someone at a province,
Mm.
there was definitely. I mean, I hope people get hip hop nights going like there used to be because those were cool things to connect with and uh, just good networking experiences too,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Those are always good things and those are like the difference in not playing in your hometown, I guess, is you're exposing someone else, um, to your music. So that's cool. I mean, a lot of
yeah.
stuff. Just the fact that you're saying hip hop night generally implies that you're probably not,
Mm.
probably not getting paid. I know another hip
Yeah,
hop in the park is in the works,
that'd be
space,
awesome. Yep.
but is it going to happen this year? Probably not, because there's a lot of grants that have to be applied for, and I know I will. Hopefully, there's one next year. I've only been involved in one of them. I've been at a couple
Mm.
of the other ones, but yeah, it's you definitely like stuff like that is stuff you need a team to put together. But
Yeah, yeah,
if you think you can get, it's like kind of I was saying to you the other night. If you think you can get a group of, 3 or 4 people together, and one of them's got a pretty good leverage with their cosign, on it, that 4 resumes are more powerful than
Yeah.
one, and delegating duties to each person of things to get together for it. I'm sure those guys, you know, D Saint and I think his name's Carey. I think those two fellas probably split their, you know, they delegate, whether it's hard to book 8 things if it's just you doing it. But if
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
4 people doing it, and you kind of make sure that one person is doing 2 things each, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's kind of what it was like before. Me and Dan kind of did we got about $2,500 from it, from the Arts Council, for the last one in, I think, 2017. And I handled some things, he handled some things, and a couple other people handled some things, and then the day of, kind of was just, we probably were a bit ambitious about a few things. There was definitely too many, a lot of things getting dropped off, a lot of moving parts. So it's definitely like, oh, can you wait for this person to drop off this like click tile stage or whatever we were doing?
Yeah.
I was like, an hour before it starts, I was like getting plywood for people to tag back at this on the inside of the skate park there, just, you know, just because
Oh yeah.
we wanted legitimate like art there.
That's cool.
Stuff like that, though, I probably spent. I spent money on it. Like I went to Kent to get it. Like I'm sure, with an extra month or two of planning, that could have been free, and that money could have went
Right.
somewhere else. But that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's me learning. And if someone does a similar thing, I will tell you. You can probably get someone to donate that.
Yeah. Exactly. No, yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it too. Is I think artists and rappers have to be more willing to like reach out to organizations and companies and ask for sponsorship opportunities or ask for donations if that's the case. Because I think, I don't know if maybe it's just a hip hop thing. Maybe it's just me because I'm stubborn. A lot of people I don't think like asking for handouts or for help that way. I think a lot of people would, you know, I don't know if it's a shame thing or what it is, but for me, I've had to go outside myself a bit and go like, okay, I need to ask for help in certain things and I need some support in these areas, or I suck at this. I need to bug somebody. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people really want to be super independent, and not, and you know what I mean, be able to be the guy for everything. But like you said, it's way too hard to organize things. It's way too easy to forget things. And you're not going to get as much done either. Like you said, you need a couple people to help with those kind of big events, especially.
And I mean, the first thing you've got to kind of agree on is like a vision or a mission statement, right?
Yeah.
If everyone agrees this is what we want in the end, we might not agree in everything the whole way. But we know this is what we want.
Yeah.
Generally, you can probably compromise your way to
Yeah.
fit out an overall project, whatever you want it to be, you know. I mean, those things are, I don't know, those things are pretty, they're pretty important as far as like, it's hard for me to quantify that exactly into words, but things like that are pretty important to have, to be motivated beyond just the actual making of the music, right? Like I think every music scene has its times where are the peaks where you think the best music happened, or is the peak where the event happened? You know, I can think of different eras. I've made, you know, music here with so many different people who were serious about it, and I've become friends over the years, that you definitely have your peak moment. And I think don't mistake that for being your record dropping or whatever, because maybe maybe you dropped a song and you played it at I don't know, either a big act was coming through town or was at an ECMA or PEI Music Awards showcase, and you felt like you had a pretty good audience. But when you make those events, definitely that could be the pinnacle of a certain era of a band of musicians or artists or rappers or whatever, all playing that era of their
Mm.
material. I definitely have material from other eras. It's not that I hate it, I just don't play it
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, you
You know,
don't resonate.
it might not be it just whatever, it doesn't suit the time anymore or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you could have your defining your defining moments for when you look back on that could be those events, definitely, and they don't happen that often. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you do them, you want to make sure that everyone's on the same page, right?
Mm.
Like I was young and doing it at parts of other people's events like that, whether it was like when Gen X, whatever, however many X's are in the name of it, opened in Summerside some 24 years ago.
Mm.
Um, someone had we did this festival where we didn't probably realize that it was like someone in our group of people was moving away. It was the last kind of gigs we were doing with them, and anyway, they had this festival in
Right.
the side skate park where Gob played at it, right?
Mm.
And didn't realize that was probably the pinnacle of that. I'm not saying of my
Right.
personal, but of that era.
Yeah, yeah.
That that was probably the pinnacle of, like, some people worked really hard to get this show with a band with a bigger draw, and it was a packed house, like it was, and good crowd, like definitely, I was
Yeah.
definitely crowd surfing at that show. I lost
That-
my hat, you know what I mean, like
yeah,
I think I
that's
lost
cool.
my shirt, like it was like 98 or 99, and you're crowd surfing, and there's a lot of people between the ages of, like, probably there's more than the average age of people. I don't even know what to say for a skate
Mm.
park 25 years ago, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
definitely, like, and I'm sure dudes in the metal and punk bands in Summerside, people still bring that up because everyone made a compilation. Like we
Mm.
went to a studio in Borden and everyone recorded one song.
Oh, cool.
So we actually got the Pete and John from Supercar or Port Citizen or whatever,
Mm.
to play the music, and we actually recorded a song for this compilation. And, like, the
Cool.
guy who owned Back Alley back then, Chaz, gave me a few copies of it. I've given them all away since. But people in bands always say, like, we recorded like a demo, like, somewhere on this, but never, like, went to a studio again. And that was
Mm.
like, that was the pinnacle of that
Yeah, yeah.
that time, right? So I'm just trying to say, like, I can pinpoint one for sure. that
Mm. Yeah,
you know
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
that was it. Like, there's definitely events like that there's a payoff, and they're memorable, and they're
Yeah, yeah.
other people who remember them, and there's an energy at it that doesn't die when the show ends.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think that goes for the audience and the artists too. Like I think for a lot of the artists I know, last summer we did this, like you said, D Saint and Carrie, they did a show in the park at Victoria Park. I think it was September. It was pretty late in the year, but it was like a night show, and it was one of the more memorable events that we've had because it wasn't super packed or anything, but there was a lot of artists there, and everybody was kind of supporting each other's music, and it was just a really good night, like for everybody that was there. Everybody that seems to
no
have
one,
been there was
no
happy,
one
you
can
know?
judge no one can judge turnout from the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a very good point. That's right. But the point being that the turnout wasn't what mattered. Like the turnout was okay, but we had such a good night just putting on each other's musics and vibing out and jamming and stuff and talking and I think, like you say, I guess it's like the expectations. We might have thought it would have been a busier event, but nobody was unhappy because it wasn't busier. We were all happy because of how it did turn out, which was, you know what I mean, really fun, just a fun show, right? Whereas other events, I can't really think of any off the top, but you might expect them to be, not a very busy event, and then it ends up being way busier, and that ends up being the highlight of it, or like you said, maybe one of the kind of peak moments. I think, I've been actually thinking myself a lot about kind of my eras of my music. I've only kind of had one, I guess. I'm getting ready to start a second era of my music. I've been really starting to conceptualize some new ideas for my next piece. So I'm looking forward to, like, on August 6th on my show, that's kind of going to be the send off of my Chasing Planes era. as a way for me to kind of celebrate it and kind of go, okay, I did that segment. Now let's start something fresh and new, and kind of new concepts, new feel, new sounds and stuff even.
Yeah.
And I think artists got to remember that, yeah, not get stuck in one time, not get stuck in one place with their music, and keep growing and evolving. I think that's a big important thing. And the live shows might help reflect that, because I think for me, I use the live shows as like a self-reflection spot, whether it's look how, this is where I've improved or where I haven't improved. Do I need new material now? Do I feel like my songs I've performed them enough that I maybe need to get, what I mean, new stuff? There's a bunch of different kind of guideposts you can use the live shows for to see where you've come or how far you've grown or whatever too. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it depends who. I don't know. Like when you're in groups, like I've definitely been in a lot of things where I'm not the only vocalist. I've never really been big on like I'm gonna take these old songs and do my parts of them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those things just kind of stay sometimes where they are, or you can really only bring them back when the people who are in other people in those groups are around. So those there's a lot of things that factor into.
Yeah.
Uh,
For sure. I found actually and it kind of goes with what you said a bit about the about like everybody knowing kind of what the goal is or the vision of a project. I struggled very early on because I was trying to do rock bands and it seemed like every member was going in a different direction or had a different idea of what they wanted their sound to be. And we ultimately never end up getting anything done because nobody could agree on stuff. And this was before we'd even started. You know what I mean? We'd be jamming and they'd come up with a couple ideas of song segments and then I'd write lyrics for them, but nobody would be cool with any of the lyrics or they'd want it to be about this or, you know what I mean? There'd always be something. So I think at the very base of the whole structure, there was we had different ideas of what we wanted from the project. And I think that ultimately doomed us to fail. And since, doing my own thing, I've obviously been able to find a bit more success because I didn't have to bounce ideas off anybody. There was nobody to shoot down the ideas. I could just kind of do what I wanted. But I also wish that I had that band. Like for me, I wanted to be in a band. You know what I mean? So it was disappointing, Yeah. So it was disappointing to find that nobody wanted to do it the way I did, or that we couldn't agree on certain things, or that we never, that one guy never showed up for practice, or whatever it might have been. So there's always that struggle, I guess, for people.
You're in the same boat as me, where your father's was in bands all his life, same.
Yeah.
And there's kind of that. I want to say it's School of Rock. I'm positive it's School of Rock, where it's like that mentality of one great rock show can change the world,
Yeah.
And that definitely their generation, dudes who were teenagers or in their 20s and the 70s, with all that, the amount of rock and roll that came out of subgenres of rock and roll. When you think, Zeppelin and Sabbath in the early 70s, Sex Pistols and Police, and the Clash in the late 70s. You think that's one decade of music. Like, they came out with probably there was a few instances where one really good rock show really like something crazy happened from it.
Yeah, really affected certain people's lives afterwards, or even the direction of the bands or whatever, the people in it. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's the part that kind of isn't awesome about music, where there's so details to doing
Oh, I lost your audio. Oh, there we go.
It's hard to say you're going to cover. I think I just put my finger on that part of the.
Oh, it's all good.
It's hard to figure out who's gonna, especially when you're younger. It's awkward to reach out to, CBC or the Buzz or whoever. I mean, when you get older, it becomes like second nature when you put out a record. To be like, I'm going to send it here, here, and here. That becomes second nature. You're like, yeah, there, and there. The same way that a lot of you is like the second you're done mixing a song and you're happy with it, you're going to go to DistroKid or CD Baby or whatever and upload it and let everyone know to pre-save it like 10 minutes after you upload.
Yeah.
I never do that when I put out a song. I'm so stupid. But you know, those things become second nature, and those are like the hardest parts of you know, who I don't know. Do you really have an idea of what the scope of your social media is, and what do you reach out to extend beyond that scope, and
Hmm.
you know, what's engaging? I mean, Shaman's actually he's got a better idea than most people I've talked to, but and he'd probably be a good person to reach out to.
Mm.
But it definitely, there's also the element of like the shoestring budget, right? I mean, most people want to put the the lion's share of whatever they have towards a project
Mm.
into either the recording or whatever they want to do with it, right? Like, I know probably in the next few years I'd like to kind of release things on vinyl, so that's, you know, I know where I'm going to put
Cool.
the lion's share of money. I'd like to have put
Yeah.
a few things out on whatever. I've put a few things out on single, like 7-inch records, but I'd rather put out some
Mm.
12-inch records, just of you know, with more different stuff, not career spanning. That's so pretentious sounding, but like definitely like just songs that I want on a 12-inch
Right.
LP.
Right. Yeah, like
Um,
compilation type thing or whatever, like
I don't
collection.
even know if a compilation. Maybe I'm still working
Yeah, greatest hits
that.
isn't what you're going for though, is what you're
I know, just
saying.
the people at the top have decided that's where the money's going to go, right?
Mm.
But it's all where your priorities are, and
Yeah.
you know, promotion is such a hard thing to gauge how much
Yeah.
and where especially
Hmm.
to put the money into. I definitely don't know. All I
Yeah.
know is that I know you should look
Yeah.
and put
No,
it
that's
out
right.
to
Yeah.
as many people as you can on what they feel they've gotten the best bang for their buck for,
Yeah,
right?
for their buck. 'Cause, yeah, well, my biggest issue with promotion has always been that fear of basically throwing your money into the ether. You know what I mean? Like you never know exactly what the results are. And like you said, the problem is too. I was talking to Spivvy about this recently. You could put $50 or $500 or whatever amount on a song that you release, the single or whatever. And maybe just that single isn't the one. Like, you know what I mean? You could say you release 3 singles and put the same amount of promo on each one. It's hard to know if the second and third one do better because the content is better or if the momentum based off the first one drew people to the second one, especially with Spotify and the algorithms now. It's hard to know sometimes, like you said, the true reach of your social media or of your organic traffic or whatever these things might be. And yeah, I think a lot of people get paralyzed by the idea of like, where's my money going to go? And am I just buying bot streams because I'm trying to work with this company that says they can get me on playlists and stuff like, there's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of pitfalls that you can fall into with your money. And there's a million people out there trying to get money from independent artists that are desperate to be heard. So it's a struggle.
That is one thing I have always found is like the new pyramid scheme. Um,
Yeah.
I really am super leery of all those playlist
Yep.
curators.
100%. Yep.
I don't know what to make of that. My opinion is I'm very worried
Yep.
about you giving them your money. That's my
100%. Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, no, literally. That's right, because you never know what they're doing with that. First of all, like, are they just going to another website that's cheaper than their service and they buy you bot streams from that website and then keep the difference? You know what I mean? That's a possibility in a lot of these cases.
Yeah.
And then maybe they do put you on a big playlist. Is that playlist quality listeners? Are they people that are actually listening to discover new music? Are you being put on a playlist that is similar to your genre? Like, there's
If it's
so
something
many unknowns.
that just gets played at someone's work and no one's paying attention to it, I know. You know, there's
Exactly right.
so many variables. The
Yeah.
it's the same. How do you know a song you put out last week? You were up for a PI Music Award for Airplanes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're on playlists for that you didn't pay for. You're just up for it.
Mm.
So how do you gauge a future song against that when you have completely different association? Um, you know, I've only done a few things where it was completely my doing, um, that weren't something like that.
Yeah.
That garnered, you know, noticeable plays on things. I've
Mm.
definitely done some research locally, not a ton, um, as far as people I know what they do to promote their music or what they have behind them.
Mm.
And I'm always kind of blown away when I scan through people who I'd at least, if I saw them doing something, I'd want to pick their brain about it, right?
Mm.
Uh, like someone low key like Cavi.
Yeah.
He's got more followers than a lot more followers than a couple other people you'd think he'd be on par with or something, right? But he's 10 times more than some people who
Hmm.
are, fairly well established artists here.
Yep.
Um, or problematic. Like that dude has a massive social media following, but I've only seen him play one show that I can
Seen him
think,
live once. Yep. Live once. Yep.
and it
Yeah,
was
that's a good point.
it was like 2019. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
There's different avenues, it seems like, for success, or for at least relative success. Um,
exposure, whatever. Yeah,
yeah, and you're right. Both Cavi and Problematic have found different avenues. I think Problematic's more focused on its music video content. Cavi, I believe, got a placement with one of his songs. I'm not sure how that came about, like a feature and a placement. Like I said, I don't know if that would be something they would have had to pay for themselves if somebody reached out to them. That's the stuff that's all up in the air. So yeah, you definitely there are some people, and I agree. Like there's some in our area where you kind of go like they're obviously finding some measure of success. How did they get to that point? And I'd be curious to know some of those things too. Maybe Cavi's somebody I should try and get on here, rope him in here, see if he'll spill some beans for us. But
I think he
but
would.
yeah.
I think he would.
Mm.
Spivvy's known him. Spivvy and him are day one.
Yeah.
He tell him to hook you up. The but yeah, no, but I definitely I mean, not that I'm at this stage of the game I'm gonna do a ton of things differently. I definitely do things to have a good time. But
Yeah.
it's hard. It is still a thing you do where you invest money, and
Mm.
it's hard to it's hard to gauge what your best investments are.
Yeah.
And what works
Exactly.
for someone like Cavi may not work for someone else.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Or what
Yeah.
works for, um, I don't know, Dennis Ellsworth
Mm.
or Catherine McClellan or,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen a few other new, Emmett McClellan for that matter,
Mm.
just people I see coming up.
Mm.
Or who's that girl, Josie Ramone?
Yeah.
What are all those? What are all those
Yeah.
people doing outside of? Because they're all solo artists, I guess is my
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Most hip
With
hop.
Rayome, actually. Sorry to interrupt. She was an interesting case because I remember looking her up when I first heard of her on Spotify, and she didn't have any music on Spotify yet, but she had her account claimed and had followers already. So nobody was playing her music. She had zero monthly listeners because there was no music to listen to, but she had the profile and she had followers. So whenever she does release, she'll immediately have some plays, and that's actually pretty interesting. I remember seeing that and being kind of surprised. I didn't even know that was possible. But sure enough, like you say, there's different ways of doing it. Yeah, and she must have. I mean, she obviously put some effort into building a bit of a following on her Spotify without music. So so it's very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost reminds me of like I don't know, MySpace or something.
Mm.
It's a
Yeah.
throwback.
Well. Yeah. Actually, you're right. Well, actually, now that I think about it, BT Flow. He was telling me this was quite a while ago, so he may have changed his strategy now. He was telling me he was focusing on building a social media following before releasing music. So his hope was create engaged audience and then release the music to them specifically so that they're maybe already kind of primed for it. Whereas, someone like me started releasing music and then started building the social media around it, hoping that it would catch, but maybe there's a lack of personality in it or something. You know what I mean? There's like different, like you said, different approaches, different folks, I guess, and it's hard to know what works best, obviously, at the end of the day. Probably whatever's different for everybody. It's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a two-tiered
Mm.
system
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
now, where I feel like the social media game and the live show game are are so uh so far apart.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how to quantify that, but
Mm-hmm.
um definitely there's, you know, it's a hard time, to be honest, to quantify that because
Yeah.
people really aren't um touring to a larger extent, and those things don't pay super well. So, you know, eh, it's not like you're going to a show and like back in the day it was a pretty safe bet you'd sell CDs at a show, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
CDs were more expensive then.
Mm.
If you were selling, if CDs had the overhead they have now, back then it's crazy to say, and you were still selling them for, you know, what you were getting for them, no questions asked back then,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
it would be a different story. It's the same as like people are willing to buy records, but the overhead on records now is insane.
That's right. Yeah.
And
It's
wait
expensive. Yeah.
time is insane. Your music's, if you waited to release your music to have the vinyl, your songs would be on the back burner for a
Yeah.
while, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
you don't see too many non-major label artists putting out records
It's a good point.
that
It's a good
correlate
point.
releases. None of the
Yeah.
vinyl I've put out is correlated with
No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
release.
I know you're right though too with the like you said earlier with albums, like artists are so incentivized to do singles now. Albums, I mean, there's some cases you won't be able to give your album away because somebody doesn't have anything to play it on, which to me is crazy. Like I still like the idea of a physical album. For me, that's something I like. People don't even have CD players in their cars sometimes now.
No,
It's
more
crazy.
more people have record players, but records are
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like, even do you make a this is Braden V, you know, even the cover of the record is the this is whoever, uh
Right.
you know, just that picture of your this over the
Hmm.
black, the white with the this is, you just make a vinyl like that and put
Yeah.
44 minutes of your singles compiled on there.
Mm.
um you know, it's probably, it would be pretty, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's a massive, investment, and you kind of want to
Mm.
have more, especially living on PI. You definitely, if you're going to put that into it, you want to have some gigs lined up if you really need
Yeah.
to make your capital, like the capital you put into it, back. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
that's a serious thousands of dollars investment.
Yeah.
You know, for a
Yeah.
music that's like. You know, if you're a hip hop artist, that's the equivalent of like getting two Technics 1200s in a Rain mixer.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, no joke. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Or
don't hit on that. That goes to work right away.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Because
true.
if I had that, it would be in my living room and I'd be playing with it all the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
those records might sit in my attic for years.
That's exactly right. Yeah, there's always that risk, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a struggle. It's like you said, it's always like if you have X amount of money as an artist, how do you divvy up that money and into what, right? Like you can obviously spend it all on recording or all on making music video content for songs you already have, or the vinyl, like you said, or to book
when
shows.
when you
Who knows?
for someone, or you're even around people who are your friends who have shows that are going good, I don't, CDs aren't a major thing you see,
Mm-mm.
but man,
No, not anymore. Yeah.
you for sure see LPs move,
Mm.
right? Like
Yeah.
people are pretty happy to give you $20 to $35 for an LP, right?
Right.
I mean, they don't move like CDs used to move. People aren't buying them in the sense that they're buying it to listen to something,
No,
and
no, no.
they're more expensive. You're not really making that much money off them. If you break even off them, that's great. I've researched that with lots of people. It's definitely the piece of merch that everyone looks for. I mean, in the
Mm.
last 8-10 years, records have gone up
What's crazy? Yeah.
crazy.
Mm.
I've always bought records, right? So I can tell you, like, I remember buying a band's new album for like
I think I lost you again.
20 bucks. Am I back?
There you go. That's okay.
No, I was gonna say I remember buying a band's album just off like their website or something for like 20 bucks, and now everything 35, 45.
Right, right, right.
Right?
Yeah, even the
So
price of those gone.
CDs
Mhm.
definitely did not go up that much.
No, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, it's too bad. And even like I was saying with Spotify and stuff, they so incentivize the singles that nowadays they want you to release the singles as like cascade releases, as in release one every month for 8 months, and then compile those into a record at the end of the 8 months, and they say consider that your album. And to me that doesn't feel like an album. It feels like 8 singles. You know what I mean? Or 12 singles. It doesn't feel like an album or like a real. To me, an album should be like almost like a time capsule of a certain portion or something of an artist's
Yeah.
creative energy or something. You know what I mean? I feel like there should be some very real consistency to it. And I feel like if I space my songs out over 12 months or whatever, I feel like the consistency or something gets mixed out of it, I should say, rather, or something. You know what I mean? So it seems weird. I don't know. It just, it's a struggle, right? To, like you said, to know which way to do it. Cause I'm a guy who likes to do albums. I like listening to albums too. For me, I like to listen to an album start to finish if I can, or like,
Oh,
portions of it. So, these days the singles, they're all so disconnected and disjointed. You could have 3 singles and they're totally different moods, different styles, and they wouldn't really fit very well on an album per se, or something. It's weird.
the new Czarface album. That's my example of like, that's a feel of just like it's not a themed album, but man, I just like, it's got something a little different. It doesn't just go one way, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That'd be a good example for me as something that's come out recently. I know
Mm.
that's like a guy thing to say. Yeah, of course you're saying Czarface. They're all old. I know it's new hip hop, but they're old, Eric. They're old. The
I, I think the new hip hop guys can learn a lot from the older ones. I think there's a lot of like I don't I don't want to say laziness because there's plenty of rappers that are super hardworking, you know what I mean? Like this is a very generalized statement, but I think there is a certain portion of of music in general that is lazier these days. And maybe that's because like the barrier for entry is a bit lower because of the digital age. Anybody can make beats or whatever. I
I
feel like I feel like there's more lower quality music as a base level now than there
you
used to be.
you know why? And this I've actually seen enough research on this. It started with the iPod, Braden,
Mm,
and people started listening to music almost all day. There's so
right,
many.
right, right.
If you have a data entry job or you work somewhere where you're doing a thing where no one's going to distract you, where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
earbuds in, people need so much more content now
Mm,
and listen to things. So there people are they're gonna listen to it's like the playlist theory, right? Like you're gonna listen to these 100 songs today, and you might listen to these 100 songs another time.
mm,
You're not paying you're not paying that attention you pay to them
right.
uh like you would pay attention to putting on Led Zeppelin 4 after you smoked a doobie on Sunday morning. you
Yeah,
know
yeah. No, yeah, yeah.
you're not like digging deeper into the meaning. You're just
No, you're right. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, no, there was
soundtrack of your day, and um there's a requirement for much more
right, right, right.
content, and it's just
Mm,
things are so disposable now. Is it a good thing? I don't think so, but
yeah, yeah.
there's so much content um needed, and there's definitely, I mean, it comes down to, are you making music to be content, or are you making music for hip hop fans or music fans? that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you can tell what someone is making music for, and I'm not saying any of them are good or bad.
Mm,
What influences how you uh who you have in mind as a listener
yeah,
when
yeah.
when you're making something, who you're talking to.
Yeah.
uh,
I agree with that big time.
but I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of people making music with the intent that it's the only time the person's going to listen to it for the most part, and they're more worried about you know saying something that sticks out somewhere in it, or being,
Right, right,
they're
right.
on to the next piece of content I create. Maybe
Mm,
they're not as much looking to um, make something that's replayable is something that's what's next, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I think there's something to that. I think a lot of the albums, even recently, that have been coming out, people refer to more as like an experience listening to the album than like a replay album. I think like Kendrick Lamar's latest album, kind of, I've heard people say that it's a fun album to listen to once, but you're not going back to a lot of those songs because they're not bangers or they're not super catchy or they're not. And I'm just using Kendrick as the example because he's got plenty of songs that are super catchy and super fun and replayable. But with
yeah,
that latest album, at least, one of the critiques and compliments that have been given towards it goes a bit both ways, is that it's kind of more of an experience to listen to rather than something you're going to want to go back to first thing in the morning or when you're going to the gym, or like you said, yeah, the context and the environment the music is ingested is different now too. I guess you're right. Yeah.
and like I don't know, you could say MF Doom in his prime is like that too. There's not a lot of hooks.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know. That's just someone who, when you say like it's not really meant to, not that it's not a banger because I've watched an
No,
MF
yeah, he's definitely got some bangers
concert
for sure. Yeah.
recently, but I know what you mean, and I
Yeah.
kind of played that Kendrick. I can't say I remember it, so maybe
Mm.
that's
Yeah, the intent is, I guess,
why.
different. Or like you said, the audience and the intended audience is different too. And actually, that goes to something I've said a couple times on this podcast about making music for artists these days. Is especially for singles. If you're releasing singles, you have to kind of know where you're trying to sell it to or where you're trying to put it. So knowing this is a club banger or this is a good workout song helps you know who you're trying to direct it to and what audiences to try and brand it to or whatever, you know. There's something to that for sure. I think nowadays, for me, when I make a song, I know usually based on the beat or the lyrical content or whatever. Oh, this song's probably going to be listened to by people at the gym or by girls when they're sad or you know what I mean, whatever it might be. Um,
That's great. That's great.
yeah. I got a couple. I've got one or two songs that girls might like. I don't know.
When
I
there's
looked at my I looked at my Spotify engagement the other day, or actually, sorry, my YouTube channel engagement the other day. It is 100% male. There's not a single female that listens to my YouTube. I was like, fuck.
girls when they're sad has to be your goal.
Yeah, well, I think there is something to be said about and this is something I've heard other hip hop artists say, not even like ones I know personally, just bigger hip hop artists, is that guys go where the girls go. So if you're an artist and you're trying to fill out a club, if your music is catered to the women, women will come to the club because they're here to see you. The men will come to the club too because they're here to see the women. You
That
know, that's
that's
a bit shallow, but
that's an ancient law of nature. Ever since there've been clubs, that's pretty much been one of the laws of yeah.
yeah, exactly right. So, see, for me, as a guy who also like, I like to have melody in my songs. I like to sing. So for me, having a couple sweeter songs or a couple songs that are maybe more palatable for a female audience is, I think, an empowering thing in a way as an artist, because it opens up that, like that whole, like I said, if 100% of my listeners are male, it might be a good idea to create something that allows, nearly 50% of the human population that are female get interested in it too, right? Like, you know what I mean? You're really pigeonholing yourself sometimes if you're just trying to make aggro music for dudes that are trying to get swole or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Um,
Aggro music for dudes who are trying to get.
that is actually, that should be the name of a playlist is what that should be. That'll have a lot of followers. Aggro music for dudes who want to get swole. I like that one actually. Yeah.
Oh man.
Mm. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Eric. I should probably let you go, my guy.
Yeah.
I got some people bugging me to hop on Xbox apparently, so I better get on there
Great.
and make
Great.
the people happy.
Yeah, man.
So
We'll definitely talk about that feature soon, dude.
that
We'll
sounds good. Yeah, I still need to get my little studio here set up a bit. I of all things, we have a new dog. Not the dog. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh no, I'm in the same boat. There's a few
Oh,
people. Hey, Spivvy, I see you, man. Definitely gotta get
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Probably mentioned it like 9 months, a year or something ago, but I still have those things in my little notebooks in my in the cracks are all open. Yeah.
You're not the only one. I've owed Spivvy a track for, I think it's 6 months now. He sent me the demo. And I was like, oh, I can totally do something with this. Wrote the demo, never got into the studio for it yet. So we'll get there. We'll get there real soon.
Oh, for sure, for sure. All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. We got to do it again sometime, especially if you got something coming out or something. Is there anything you want to plug before I let you go? Is anything coming out or anything you want to talk about?
No, man, I'm doing your show on August 6th, and I am 2 recording sessions away from finishing a EP with DJ Moves. So
So
I don't know. I guess you'd say that'd be out in the fall, and
nice.
have a few singles. I guess I could drop before then too, but I might not too because I put out a single like a month ago. I'm
Right,
not
right, right.
not
So
trying to make people hear my shit all the time.
yeah, you got to get out of the way sometimes, right? So can I ask, you said fall, the album might be coming out around fall. Will that be, do you think, like too late for some of these deadlines for applications, awards stuff? Is that something you're aiming for, or is something you've got so many of those? I don't know if that's even something you think about anymore.
I don't worry about it. I have stuff that would be eligible this year,
Right,
so
right, right.
if it is, it is. If it's not, it's not. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like the Toronto Maple Leafs fans keep saying, there's always next year.
yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, there's always this here. No, that's true though, and that's a good way to look at it, right? You
Yeah.
can't be like me who spent maybe too much of last year focusing on trying to get some recognition from industries and then feeling like such an idiot because it's totally out of my control at the end of the day, really anyway, right? Like, I can only create music and then hope that it gets recognized. I can't stake my happiness on trying to get, you know what I mean, on awards or on industry recognition. That's a key to unhappiness, I think.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You just do what's best for the record and do everything you
Yeah.
can to do everything you can. You can only
Hmm.
do what's within your abilities, man. And I've had the same thing you were saying the other day happen to me before too. Sometimes I've actually called and double checked twice.
Mm.
Actually, I've double checked and had it. Oh no, it's not there, and
Oh,
hustled
good.
to
Yeah.
get things back in. I'm pretty good at keeping templates,
Mm.
so submissions for me are not is because I've kind of walked a few people through them before and stuff. I know that when you've never done them, it's like
Hmm.
paperwork. People don't like paperwork, bro.
Yeah, well, you're always
But
not sure exactly what they're looking for or what's expected and stuff. Yeah, there's always a few questions there. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's all you can do is what you can do, man.
Hmm.
It's but thanks for having me, and
I appreciate it.
get box, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Sounds good. Yeah,
All
we'll
right,
get in touch soon and I'll be in touch soon about the show. I got some details I'll send everybody and stuff. We got some
awesome.
we'll get a set order
Awesome.
figured out, real stuff.
For sure, I'll bug a few people about a few things for it too,
Okay.
for sure.
Sounds good. All right. I
All
appreciate
right,
you, Eric. We'll talk soon.
cool, man. All
All
right,
right.
cheers.
Have a good one. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Here we go, everybody. That's Eric Broadbent, the first and most special guest on the Chasing Planes podcast to date. We're going to have more guests coming in the next couple weeks and stuff. I'm hoping to get a lot of the people that are going to be on my show in August to kind of do some chatting on here, and we can talk about music and like Eric here, get some knowledge. You know what I mean? I think there's always something to learn from people who've been doing it for as long as Eric. Like, gosh, the wealth of information. I feel like I barely scratched the surface there. You know what I mean? Eric has so much material, first of all, artistically, and so many recognitions in the industry. He's got the live show experience. He's done it all. So it's one of those things where every time you get a chance to talk to him, you can really learn a wide variety of things and unexpected things too. So shout outs to Eric Broadbent. If you haven't checked out Eric Broadbent on Spotify, make sure you do. His music's fantastic. He's a true original in a world of derivatives and of people type beating the most popular hip hop songs around and trying to do their version of it. Eric's a guy who's pioneered hip hop in the area, and I look forward to seeing what's coming next from him. So make sure you guys give him a follow on his pages if you haven't already. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate the chat there, chiming in stuff. Sorry we didn't chat with the chat too much, but it's cool having you guys tune in. I appreciate the attention and the time. And yeah, we're gonna get Explicit on here at some point soon, so that should be cool. I'll have to get in touch with her soon. We can get a date firmly set. And I think later this week I might do another interview with a rap duo out of New York. So I haven't confirmed anything yet. I don't want to name them yet, just in case they back out. But stay tuned for that. It should be really cool. They're a pair of pretty exciting dudes that I linked up with online, and they hit me up, said they'd love to do a podcast. So we'll see about that. So we'll be in touch, guys. Braden Veep podcast, Chasing Planes. We're out. Have a good one.